Hello guys, I hope you're all good. It's Kyle here again, and today we're just going to go over some maintenance. So to keep your Kappa in tip-top condition, you need to maintain it after you've used it every other game day or something like that. Depends how much you use it really. So we're going to go through bits and bobs that you need to do on short maintenance and bits that you need to do if you've used it heavily and it's not been maintained or looked after for the past couple of weeks, months. Again, all depends how much you used it. So first off, we're going to start by stripping the upper from the lower. So if you didn't know, slide catch pops out. If you didn't know before and you're really struggling with pushing this pin in, if you rack your slide back, line the hole up there, you can actually reach in on the inside of there and push out and it pops. So we can just pop that to the side. So we'll put the lower to the side for a second and we'll look at the upper. So for uppers, I would usually, if it's just going to be a normal maintenance sort of thing and you just want to make sure everything's greased up and lubed up, you can leave it as it is, but make sure everything's clean out of here. So you can use a Q-tip or an earbud, whatever you want to call them, or you can just literally use some toilet paper, kitchen roll, anything like that. Get it into all the nooks and crannies of where the rails go, because there's usually lots of dirt and stuff like that. It's amongst all that. Also, we do like to use a detailing brush as well. So detailing brushes are absolutely perfect for cleaning out all the debris and stuff like that from that bits you don't need. So just from giving that a quick wipe, you can see that's loads cleaner. But we are, with this one, going to do deep clean because it's not been used for a while and it's not been maintained for a while. So first things first, what we're going to do is take the screws off this, take the screws off the rear side and pop this out so we can bring the front end out, because this was built back to front. So usually put all this stuff in first then guide rod in, but because it's a single piece guide rod and not a split piece, we built it front to the back. So we're just going to get the back end off first. So this screw here is a 2.5mm Allen screw, so the square part, and then the top bit is also the same on these Dr. Black 4.3 rear sights. So we'll move this out of the way. This will then drop and then this will slide off. So there we've got our BBU, we've got a AIP 140% nozzle spring, which is looking well still. We've got an Elite nozzle, as you can see it's a bit dirty there, still got enough lube on it, but we'll clean it all off completely and make sure it's all maintained. That's very dirty, that is. So we'll put that to the side. This part you can get away with just if you push it all to the side, pull this forward, split your hop unit away from your outer barrel, push that to the back, then that will go pinging, and you can take guide plug, recoil spring, that's an AIP 120. Next speed short strokes, these are probably one of the best short strokes you can get, this one and the edge bare ones, just because they're solid. Other short strokes like Cow, LA Kappa, and a few others as well, there's spongy, which is obviously you do want some degree of, but too spongy. 4.3 Dr. Black dinging out a barrel, rear sight, which we've shown you, next speed hop unit with Dr. Black in a barrel. These are all really dirty, as you can see. I'm covered in it already. So we'll put all that to the side and then we'll start cleaning the slide internals. So again, I'll just get a detailing brush in there, get any loose debris out. Finish it off with a bit of toilet paper or kitchen roll, whatever you want. So that's that clean. Again, same with the guide rod. This is probably going a bit over the top. I just don't want any crap in the gun at all, anything that's going to hinder its performance or make it run rubbish. Just check the inside of it in the barrel. So that's a little dirty. So what we'll do is get a fresh bit of toilet roll. Now usually I would use, but I haven't got any to hand, a alcohol pad. So you can get these off Amazon for literally like a £5 for a box of 100. You might have gotten with screen protectors and stuff like that that you put on your phones. We use them in inner barrels, they work fine. Or you can get just the alcohol stuff, isopropylene alcohol I think it is. Put that on a bit of tissue, give it a good twist as you're putting it up, make sure you've got everything out. I don't know if you can see down, but that's as clean as a whistle. Check your hot rubber while you're at it, make sure there's no tears, anything in there that could do any damage to anything or make your BB go where you don't want it. So that's that. We've also got an O-ring that's fell out, that'll sit on there because that'll shim the hop unit to the outer barrel and make sure there's no movement, because we don't want any movement from anything in a outer barrel wise, because again that hinders your accuracy and things like that. You want it to be as accurate as you can. We'll come back to what we do with that in a second. So slide wise, that's all done. Guide rod wise, we've done all that sort of good stuff done. So we'll put all this to the side. Let's work on the BBU. So we'll give this a quick wipe down again with this detailing brush. I don't think many people really use the detailing brushes, but we only recently started doing it and it's the best thing ever. Cheap, you can get them on Amazon. It gets rid of all the little bits of debris that you don't want. And then also we'll give this a quick wipe down with some tissue. You want to be checking for any cracks or anything like that as well, so give it a good squeeze. Look for any weak points, anything that's cracked. Make sure this screw's flush, so it's not really flush at the moment. So what we're going to do is tighten that up. You don't want to tighten it up too much because you'll end up splitting the rocket valve holder in there, and then your nozzle's going to go bust. So tighten that up until that top screw's flush or below the surface. So that looks all good. So lube wise, we will swear by this to the day that we die. Abbey silicone gun oil 35, unbelievable stuff. Also we use this as well, so this is for mountain bikes. Also another good one is sewing machine oil. Very expensive though, but This stuff is 100% pure silicone oil, so it's very, very, very good. This stuff we also use a lot as well. Never had anything bad to say about Abbey. Abbey do some really good stuff. So yeah, you just need a little dab on this O-ring here. This is probably the most important O-ring on your gun. So we'll follow it around, just put little dabs in there. You don't want to go too silly, because too much lube will actually make your gun worse. A little dab inside your nozzle, get your little finger or something else in there, just give it a good smooth clearing. Oh, as well, all the excess put on the outside of the nozzle. Again, you don't need to go absolutely silly with this. Slide your nozzle on, make sure there's nothing there to hinder it, make sure it moves smooth. Put a little bit on this bit, because that's the part that interacts with your gas router on your mag. Nozzle spring goes on, and that's that done. So build it back up. We're going to do front to back. So that will go in first. Then we'll put the guide plug in, followed by all these short strokes, which have now dropped, so I'm going to have to reorganise. I don't know why we do it, I don't know if it makes any difference whatsoever, but we just one of each opposites as we're going along, and then always finish with a brass one at the front, because that stops the spring from going into position. So let's see if this fits without it. Yeah, it does. That's fine. So then slide this bit forward. Make sure this is all clean. This is another thing that breaks people's nozzles that they don't know about. Well, they might know about it, but they're not sure why. So at the back of your nozzle, you've got a post which your nozzle spring sits on. Sometimes they sit a little high, and so does this little notch on the top of sides. So sometimes the back post of your nozzle will catch on that part and then snap the back end of your nozzle. If you're finding that's what's happening a lot, file this bit down so it's ramped from this end, and you should see it stop. So again, this one used to go in from that direction. Hold that in place, slide this forward, I think it's planned, did it? And then put your BBU up into place. Make sure your nozzle spring is in where it should. Drop that in. Put a few little threads in, because you want to do your sight one first. Give me a second. A few threads. Make sure it's just tighten off. Screw that up tight enough, and then slide that forward and make sure your nozzle moves freely, which it does so sweet. So that is the upper essentially maintained, but we'll always go one step further. So we have been using all of for quantum stuff for months and months now, and we absolutely love the stuff. So they come in 5 different pens. We've got the Speed Lube, which we'll show you what we use this for soon. Red Loctite. We don't use this as often as we do blue Loctite, but if you want something holding in place and you don't want it to move ever, that's your one. Seal compound. This will be used on your seals, on your mags. or adapters or something daft like that. Then you've got your blue Loctite, we use this a hell of a lot. Then we've got this other pen, which is a thicker lube, but it's perfect for stuff that's moving against each other. So we always put this on outer barrels, only because obviously if you've added an outer barrel, you'll know for a fact your slide is going to rub on this part, and we also put bits on the guide rod as well. So we just give that a little coating. If it's showing, this comes out as orange, work it in until it becomes clear, and then you know it's got enough of a coat. Once that's done, that's done. We'll come back and lube up all the rails and stuff like that once we've moved off the lower. So lower wise, we are going to strip it down to absolutely nothing to show you the ins and outs and the guts. So get a punch set, because this will help you out. We haven't got a punch set here because I'll have to leave the video because it's in the other room. So I'm going to make do with this. But it's always good practice to get a punch set and a rubber mallet. Like literally, we've got a little rubber mallet from Amazon. As you can see, it's well used, but that stops you from whacking anything with a metal hammer. Hammer spring housing, sear spring, and then we're just going to take these screws off here with, no, wrong one, it's 2.5 still, isn't it? Yes. So they're our Airsoft Masterpiece custom grip screws. That was the 2. And then your upper and your grip will split apart. So like I said, we're going the full way, so we're going to strip everything down to as little as possible to show you the ins and outs of everything we possibly can. So that's a 2 mil. Trigger bow, trigger, so next speed, type A trigger, I think, and that is a AIP trigger bow, so steel. Give that a good clean in a second. That's an empty grip. We need to give that a clean, so we'll do that now. So again, detailing brush, I'm telling you, get one. Make sure there's no debris where your slide catch, mag catch, and your trigger bow, and trigger's going to go. So that's that done, we can put that to the side. Same with this. Back to that in a second. In fact, we'll come back to that now. So going back to next speed, full quantum. I can't get my words right. We'll lube the trigger bow on all areas. Slight bit at the bottom of that, slight bit on the top of that, and also on the grip as well. So all you want to do, double click this, and a little drop will come out. This stuff is super thin lube. So all you need to do is put 2 drops on. That will likely do all of it, which it has. Plenty. And then also on aluminium grips, we will put 2 clicks into there, 2 clicks into that corner, if you've seen where I was doing it, so the corner's where the trigger bow sits, and then just drag the pen up these rails, just to move it down. Same on this side. Just to drag it downwards to these rails, and then also 2 click will give you 1 drop on this bottom part here. So we have put lube on there, there, on there, and we've dragged it up as well, so the trigger bow glides nice and smooth on that. If you want as little resistance on this as possible. Mag catch, give it a good rub down, make sure it's clean. Same for this, just a little bit there, give it a good rub around, and then this can go back in. And then you need the flathead. Back in, lovely jubbly. 2mm back. The mag catch screw on. You can put Loctite on this if you wish, but it's not always necessary. So that's all nice and tight. That moves fine. So moving on to the lower. This will be where majority of you will lose something. So you've got your plunger set in there, which obviously locks your safeties into place and then locks your slide catch into place as well. So when you take these off, hammer back, cock back, and then because these are AM, they're tight fitting, we just give them a wiggle and then they pop. Always point the back end of your frame downwards because these will just pop out. Give it a good tap, then you'll have your spring, small detent that goes towards the front, and then your larger one which is for your safeties. Your grip safety will then drop out, and then you're left with this. So give it a little wipe, we'll clean this deeper in a second anyway. Then what you want to do is flip this side over. This is for advanced frames only. I'll grab a stock TM frame in a second and I'll show you what you're doing with that. So this advanced frames that have hammer boxes, and now I have lost my screwdriver. Not a clue how I've done that considering I was just here. This pin is in, oh, it's literally right in front of me. How the hell have I managed that? These pins drop out, keep hold of them. Another part where you will likely lose something, easiest way to do this is slide your hammer box up from the bottom. As soon as your valve knocker lock or valve knocker reset, whatever you want to call it, starts poking up that, you see spray, put your thumb over that and pull the rest of it out. Disconnect will either come out on the other side of that, or it'll either stay in the frame. In our case, it's staying in the frame. This part, move your other thumb over, lift this up, and then your spring will start showing its head there. Take that to the side, put it away, and there you have it. You can't really lose anything else now, so that is filthy. So again, detailing brush, I'm telling you, it's a game changer. Little wipe down. If you've got any degrease or anything like that, that'll work marvellous as well, but in all honesty, this works fine. We want it to be greased. So that's a little clean. They can go to the side because I don't need them just yet. Now we will unscrew the hammer housing. This is likely going to be filthy because it does get filthy. You want that screw there to be as tight as you possibly can. We always put a little dab of thread lock in there, so always the blue stuff, because the amount of times we've seen this little screw working its way out loose is ridiculous, and it will just mess up your whole gun in terms of it won't shoot anymore. So it's always best to Loctite it and make sure it stays put, but not too much. So yeah, this is filthy. You got your hammer, and that's your hammer pin. That's the other side of the chassis. As you can see, it's filthy. You've got your sear. You've got your valve knocker. You've got your sear pin. Let's see if we can get it out. It's really tight. There you go. And then you've got your valve knocker spring, which is the part that looks a bit weird. So this needs a very good clean. So again, if you've got some degreaser, it'd be a great time to use it right about now. Give it a good spray. Get it all nice and clean. But again, I'm going to go back to the detailing brush because it wins everything. You want to get this as clean as you possibly can, because this is where you'll have 99% of your problems if this gets filthy. And everything accumulates in this as well, so you want to keep this as clean as you can. Let's clean it off the side. Hammer, look at that, wipe down. Clean up with this. Same with all these components. Disconnector. This one's a cow one. Sear. So once that's all done, you can start greasing, not really grease. So these parts you want to keep not dry, but you don't want them soaking because they just accumulate dirt and debris. So what you want to do is we'll start building it back up. For this we'll use the trigger lube. I know it says trigger lube, but it's the thinnest stuff and it's really good. So it was perfect for metal and metal stuff. These were polished, but obviously as you can see with use, it's become a bit dirty again. But it'll be fine for this purpose. So first bit in is your valve knocker spring. It'll have one hooked side and one side that's hooked upwards. So the part with the hook up you want going underneath the valve knocker, so this part wants hooking behind this pin. So simply put that in there and roughly put it into position, because we'll be putting the pin on top of it anyway. So that then sits inside the spring, and then this one's pushing down into the hammer box. Once you've got it all lined up, it should. I'm making it look incredibly difficult. I don't know why I'm making it look incredibly difficult, because I've got the wrong side in. So yeah, once that's in, that's fine. You'll see it doesn't move. So we will put 2 clicks again, a little tiny smear on there, and then the track for your valve knocker, if you can see, it's got this part here which follows this track in there, so we'll just put another blob in there and just move the end of your lube pen around that area. You will also see in your valve knocker you've got a notch that needs to go on that end of the spring that's pointing up. Pull that back and then it will fit, and then it will move back and forward, and that's what strikes your output valve on your mag. That's what releases air, gas, whatever you use them. Perfect. So we've already put some on that. The sear can go on. We'll put a little dab there, and then a little dab on that bit as well. You don't need to go silly. Obviously, them two parts could come in contact. Hammer wise, we'll put a little dab on this to make sure this hammer can move freely, and then that goes onto that part, and then your hammer box can literally close up. So that's that closed. Like I said, with the screw, we'll put a little dab on that end part of the screw. The screw can go in, and then we can just tighten it all up. Give it a quick clean down. Once it's all built back up, so we don't want it all tight anywhere. This is where the disconnector is going to sit, so we put a little bit on there. And this is where the valve knocker lock or valve knocker reset, whatever you want to call it, is going to sit as well. So we'll put that one there. Make sure this is clean. Put that in there. Push the hammer forward. That'll lift up. This bit, people will do this differently, but this is just the way I've always done it. Sit. Sit the spring towards the back or the bottom. So literally, essentially the opposite way we're taking it out. So put that there, pause the drive, really just put that down there, and seat it onto there, and then if you run your finger back and forwards like that, it'll sort of centralise itself and hold itself, but don't trust it, just still hold it there. Drop this into the frame. If you can see, again, still keeping hold of that until the spring is resting on the rail. Then you can just pop it down. Disconnector, we always, because we want it to move freely, put a little tiny dab of this speed lube on the part that the disconnector is going to be moving up and down on, which is that part there, just underneath the sear. Drop that in like so. Your pins, give them a quick clean. So these are the pins that were taken off the frame the first time when I was disassembling. Make sure everything's lined up, because that will drop in. Make sure it's lined up. Push that in. I knew that was going to happen. I just did it because it was funny. Haha. And then make sure that's lined up as well, and they'll push in, and they should sit flush. As you can see, they can't go in any further. They sit flush. So I'm just going to get another piece of toilet roll. No, not the shiny black. Grip safety. Give that a quick clean. That can then rest there. Detailing brush, if you can't tell by now. I love the detailing brush. And then it's time for the veins of most people's life. So you want the little part of the pin from your spring plungers going in first. That'll slot in that way. And then you want your spring. That'll go in there, it doesn't matter which way it goes in. Then you want the larger of the two pins to follow the spring. So at that point, it should be springy. Grip safety back on, hammer down. So you want your hammer in your cock position. Again, there's different ways you can do this. We put that side in first. When you come to lift it back up, you'll feel it's got a little bit of a notch. Bring it to the top of that notch and hold it there. The other side of the safety, you'll see it's locked out because it won't go up any further. Now, people use this differently. You can either use a standy blade or anything like that, but it's a scratch case we use. You usually get like these little pry tool and screwdriver sets, the cheap ones. So I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but down you can just see the silver part of the spring plunger. That's sticking up and stopping the safety from going all the way in. So if you slot this down, there you go. Your safeties are now fitted. Quids in. Next part, you can lift your hammer back up now. So if you don't know how to manually do it, you've got your disconnector there. Just slide it forward and you see it. Lift your hammer up. Make sure the back part of your trigger bow has got a bit of lube on there that makes contact with the disconnector. It'll make your trigger a little bit smoother, which is always a good thing. Now back to your grip screws. So I just loosely put these in for the time being. We'll have to loosen these off again in a second, but I'll show you why. This is a 2. And then, see a spring. If you really wanted to, which we do, put a little bit of this lube on the contact point where the right hand side of your leaf spring is going to make contact with the disconnector. Put that in. Make sure, very, very important part, no matter how many times you build Kappa, you'll always mess this up at some point. So your right prong needs to be on top of the disconnector. Your middle prong, even though this has got all skew width now, hold that there. Your middle prong needs to be set on top of that ledge of your sear. I don't know if you can see, but that middle prong needs to be set on top of your sear. This one on the far left can be adjusted to disable your safety function. So if you like having a physical grip safety where obviously you have to compress the grip safety for it to be shoot, leave it as it is. If you want to get rid of it entirely, bend that forward, or if you want to make it so you have to, the grip safety engages earlier, bend it backwards. So once that's on, you can drop that. Make sure your hammer strut comes out the right part of your grip safety. That can go to the side. No, don't have to do that again. But we've got now, get this out, your hammer housing. So in here you've got your, depending on grips, on your plastic grips you won't have some part that we've got in here, but we'll show you anyway. So in here you've got a ball bearing. This is only on AM Gunsmith Bros grips, and it helps obviously retain your mag well on through the pin. And you'll also have a grub screw here. Again, this can be used to lock out your grip safety, to disable it completely if you wanted to. We always recommend, so at the minute we've got a plastic one in there. We like plastic ones. The metal ones are great, but the metal ones work better on plastic grips, we think, and then the plastic ones work better in these. We always add a little bit of lube on the inside of here. Again, we'll use a speed lube. Reason being, I don't know if you've ever built a capper. If you haven't, sometimes these can squeak when you cock your hammer down and the spring's compressing. It can squeak because it's rubbing on the edge of the hammer housing. It's the most annoying thing ever. So we put a bit of lube down there, and it's always good to keep this moving freely anyway. So your hammer spring goes in with your strut post on top. We put this pin in halfway, or I should say a little tiny bit of the way, and then what you want to do is push down on this, and then that'll be able to go in, and it'll retain your strut or hammer top plug, whatever you want to call it, and that's that done. So then back to this, make sure this is compressed, make sure that's flat, and then make sure your hammer strut is seated on top of your top plug. So do it like that. We're not going to fit the magwell on just yet, we're just going to put this pin in so it retains it, and then should work, and it does, like a charm. Next part is the rails. So again, Q-tip, you can use bits of tissue, bits of toilet paper, whatever you want to use. You'll see that these rails get absolutely filthy. Like that's already on a dirty piece of tissue. But if you use some degreaser on there, it'll get it super clean. Ready for some more lube, but yeah, it's still filthy, but at least there's no debris or anything like that. So next part, silicone oil, that'll do the job. You can also use the smooth lube from 4 Quantum. You can even use the speed lube as well. We'll use either of them. It doesn't really make much difference because they all keep this part lubed up. So we're going to use in this time the little pen, which is a smooth lube. Put it on the top of the rails, put it on the sides, on the other side as well. Make sure it's got a nice coating. Put a tiny bit on the top of here as well. And then you can even do the same on top. No, not necessarily, but anything that's overdone will come out the back in a second anyway, so this will be good. And then for this part, just add a little drop on there and just rub this in there. So you can see that's nice shiny coated with a thin layer of silicone oil. Slot this on, and as you can see, as I said, anything that's excess, push to the back, just wipe that away. It's not needed. Slide that on. Slide catch can go in, and again, wipe off any excess. We have found that, yeah, guess what? The detailing brush does a wonderful job polishing up your gun, believe it or not. Put the magwell back on, and then that will be the job done. So I'm just gonna, I know this bad. Because we're not using punches, just want to make sure that pins in and through to the side. There you have it. And you can also, especially on these slides, you can see where the slide's catching on these sides as well. So just add a bit of this. 4 quantum loops are literally game changers. We use them all the time. Literally all the time. They're perfect for game days. Put them into a bag, they don't take up much space at all. But yeah, there you have it. Fully maintained, stripped down. We will show you, because I believe I've got one up here. Yeah, we have. So this is a stock TM frame, this is a 4.3 stock frame. So while we're doing this, we might as well show you. These work differently. These haven't got a hammer box, so to speak. They've got 2 different sides, and then everything just plays into one side and screw over. It's similar to Hi-Capa's frames. They work on the same sort of basis that stock frames do. Dr. Black, AM, Gunsmith Bros, all that sort of stuff use. Hammer boxes. So you've got 1 screw at the back here. These pins are all fake, so you don't need to worry about them. I say they're fake. They are, but they're not. But you can't push them through. So once that screws out, obviously we've already taken the detents out, the spring plungers. This part hooks under this part of the frame, so all you need to do is just lift that up. And then on the other side, this is empty, but we'll show you. Again, just wipe this up like we did in the other frame, degreaser, whatever, detailing brush, get rid of any debris. So with your AM frame, obviously we had a hammer box, and we use this with a pin, but that's your hammer strut. That hole there's for your sear, so obviously your sear will have a pin on it, and your disconnector slots up that way. So if we was going to fit this, we'd put a couple of dabs of this speed lube in there, because obviously your disconnector's going to be moving up and down there, and a part on this pin as well to make sure your hammer moves back and forward freely. On that part, on the opposite part, just wipe this down, we've got the other side of it as well as this little plate on here. So this plate actually does come off. So we'll take this off. There's a little screw which I'll show you once I've taken the majority of it out, which can be in there very well. So there's the little screw. The hole for it is there. Once you've taken that off, be careful, because you will have your valve knocker reset, valve knocker lock in there, as well as a spring as well, which the spring always disappears and everybody always loses it. We've done it numerous times, and chance of finding it again is very slim. So this part obviously will house your valve knocker. Again, it's still got the runners there, so that's where it'll go. Your valve knocker spring will sit on that post there, and that's where the valve knocker will go in and out to knock the output valve on your mag. On this side, valve knocker lock, reset and spring, and that is where that runner in there is where your spring plungers will go. So yeah, once you've done all that, you can put this back on there, add a bit of lube into that section there for your valve knocker. Speed lube would say, a bit of silicone oil, anything like that. Nothing too greasy because it'll get caked up. Again, this screw does have a tendency to come out, so we would say put a bit of blue Loctite on it. We're not going to right now because we have no need to, because we're not building it back up to use. Well, that screw goes into there, make sure that's solid, and this is where your valve knocker lock and valve knocker reset will sit. Once that's done, put your hammer on there, your seal will already be in, disconnector up there, and it's just a case of positioning that on. Always put that weird put in there first, and then it will line up. Make sure it lines up there, and make sure you haven't got that gap there. So if you can see it's not on straight, just rearrange this until that is sat flush, so there's no gaps. Again, a bit of Loctite on this, and it has to be a tiny bit, just something to give it a better purchase. Screw that back in, and there you have it. That's how you do a TM. Same thing with the rails. Lube up that part, lube up that part. You'll see that it's not full railed like the advanced frames, so you've got two sections of rails. You can lube these parts up. Sometimes we even file these parts to make them smooth because they're die cast rather than CNC. They do have a bit of rough edges there, so especially on Dr. Black slides, if you fit in a Dr. Black slide to a 4.3, you'll find this is where it usually catches, so it's always a good thing to get a little file on that part and sand it down. But yeah, that's everything. We highly recommend Abbey Lube. We've been using it for years, and the 4 quantum sets, absolutely unreal. We always use them. People miss out on the speed trigger stuff because I think it's just for triggers, but we use it for metal stuff. Loctite definitely needed. You can skip this one if you really wanted to, but we use it on stuff that we don't want to move. That we use for O-rings on mags, so obviously your bottom base plate and stuff like that. If you've got adapters and you're putting the screw up to the mag, we'll put a bit on there. That we use a lot for most things. The performance lube, the orange one, and again that's another one that's just because we use it that much. But yeah, that's everything. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. We'll get back to you about stuff. That's just for Hi-Capas. If you're doing HP builds and want to know what the best lube is for O-rings, engines, and stuff like that, and your regs. Tech guns have pink stuff, unbelievable. Again, been using that for years. We've tried other lubes in the past, but say they're not as good as the ones that we use now. So 4 quantum stuff and the Abbey. Sewing machine oil if you can get that, or this oil for mountain bike racing bikes. Obviously we use this quite a lot as well. That's really good. Sewing machine oil is very expensive, but it's very similar in fact to the speed lube. Sewing machine oil is. Don't use this, by the way, on anything that's got O-rings. So don't use this on anything with mags or the O-ring on the BBU, because this isn't good for O-rings. It will dry them out. Use it on metal stuff. So yeah, thank you ever so much. Hope you found this helpful. If there's anything that I didn't touch on or you need any help with, like I said, please let me know in the comments. We'll get back to you and help you out with anything. Thank you so much. Have a lovely day.